You are listening to Offensive Lines with Marlon and Boyd. Small stakes NFL gambling for the average fan.
Welcome to NFL's Offensive Lines. I'm Marlon.
I'm Boyd.
And I'm already struggling. So.
I was wondering what the NFL was doing in there.
I was reading the title of the episode. It led in.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So.
NFL episode preseason. That's all right, buddy. We'll make it up on our parlays this week.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. So we're going to, throw ourselves on the fire again. Try to pop our cherry, so to speak, by betting on NFL exhibition football. Now, in the years we've been doing this, we have never, ever cashed a bet on preseason football. So, for listeners with a gambling problem, or those who just want to make money, I strongly recommend whatever we choose tonight, you go against it.
Well, we got close the one time, I believe.
Yeah, but we lost because it was a parlay.
Yeah, but that's what we're doing again. Sorry to tell you. I control the bet click. Just remember that.
It's impossible to argue with that, but we'll have that debate later. But I just want to start off with really quickly here and completely off topic. World lost a great writer yesterday. Elmore Leonard passed away at the age of 87. It's one of those ones that's not a surprise, but shouldn't happen anyway, because he would have written till he was 100. He was still writing. For any of those not familiar with him, currently the TV show Justified is based on his character Raylan Givens, who appeared in quite a few novels and a bunch of short stories. He's been writing crime fiction since the mid-70s. Before that, he did 10 or 15 years writing westerns, including 310 to Yuma, which has been made into a movie a couple of times. I was shocked by how bummed out I was by his death. I was just kind of in a fog yesterday. Coincidentally, I'd read a book of his, or reread a novel of his, when I was at the lake this summer. And it's still amazing. There's no one like him. I don't know what to say. I know you're not that familiar with his work, Boyd.
No, I haven't read any of his stuff. Well, if people have listened to this, I don't read a lot of nonfiction.
No fiction.
Or fiction, sorry. But from everything you've said, I'm going to read a recommendation from you, because you've recommended some other fiction books that I loved, Stieg Larsson being the most recent. So I'm going to take a recommendation from you, and that'll be the next book I'm going to read.
Well, Elmore Leonard's not like Stieg Larsson. One of the first things Bender and Tarantino did with their money from Pulp Fiction was they bought the rights to a bunch of Elmore Leonard books. And Jackie Brown is a Tarantino adaptation. I understand why Tarantino's a fan. Elmore Leonard was kind of one of the earliest who had that amazing ear for dialogue, where he could write pages of dialogue which wasn't even about the crime or about anything. It was two criminals talking. And it was just amazing, with the sides, the conversation drifting off in strange directions. Hilarious. I read an interview with him once where what he said was he rode the bus all the time in Detroit and just listened to people talk. And in many ways, he was one of the first who got the rhythm of urban black speech. No one was trying to write realistically for how people talked in the inner cities of decaying America. And he would capture it. Raw language, never accused of being racist. So it's not like Stieg Larsson with the complex plots. His best work, in my opinion, was just a couple of losers getting in over their head on a crime. And then everyone slowly watching it fall apart. Our good friend Mitch, to talk about a recommendation, this is disjointed, but when we met, we were both big fans of Elmore Leonard, and we debated strongly which of his books we liked. His early work was set in Detroit, and later moved to Miami and that, which was still amazing, but I never enjoyed it as much. There was something about the real grit of Detroit that made it work. He always liked Unknown Man 89 or City Primeval. My favorite by far was Swag, which is just the tale of two guys who decide that the best way to live in 1976 is to commit armed robberies based on 10 rules to a happy life. Starting with number 1, always be polite. Say please and thank you. Number 10, don't talk to junkies. Don't even give them the time of day. It's hard to recommend. I was rereading Swag tonight, and it's amazing, but it's almost hard to recommend to someone who hasn't experienced a bit of Elmore Leonard before, because the characters are criminals, not particularly bright, and not particularly likable. But their story is just so funny, and I think perfectly encapsulates the mid-70s, where as they start to make $25,000 every couple of months through simple, small-time armed robbery, their lifestyle starts to degrade and escalate. It's an astonishing book. Don't know it's the best recommendation, but that's the one I'm going to give you. I think it'll make you laugh. The conversations are hilarious. Yeah. But wherever you are, next time you have a drink, tip one for Elmore Leonard, one of the great writers in the true loss. That's all I have to say. Sorry, I thought I'd do a better job with that, but I'm still kind of bummed.
Yeah, I can't really add anything. I haven't read any of his books, but
I have an idea of like the scope of him. You know, there's Justified, there's Get Shorty, Be Cool, Jackie Brown, Out of Sight. Roger Ebert, who also died this year, was an enormous fan. And as people continued to screw up movies based on his books, I remember seeing him one time, I believe he was still on PBS, and he said, "What's so hard? Just put up a camera and shoot it like it's written." Now, that said, there was an early movie made of one of his books called 52 Pickup, which many people hate this movie. I think it's an underrated classic. It's just too evil for most people. It stars Roy Scheider and Margaret, and one of the creepiest villains I've ever seen. It's pretty much shot the way the book is, with cameos by Amber Lynn and Ron Jeremy. And it's about blackmail, murder, and porn. and it's a really seedy film, directed by Frankenheimer, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, if you don't expect any redeeming virtues in a movie, except for the fact that it's a great, great crime story, I strongly recommend it. It's great modern film noir. But that's the scope of what he's done. I mean, on Justified currently, it's a hugely popular and very good TV series, which he loved. So I'm glad he died at least with one of the projects being something he enjoyed. But, yeah, check out his work if you're not familiar with him. It's sad he's not writing anymore. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, I'm sure lots of people like myself have seen his movies and not realized they were adaptations of his books. Because I've seen Get Shorty. And what was the sequel to Get Shorty?
Be Cool.
Be Cool. And Jackie Brown. I've seen. And I thought Jackie Brown was a great movie.
I thought, yeah. And Tarantino was a lot of his dialogue. Like, he changed it a bit to be Tarantino, and that didn't hurt because their styles in dialogue were very sympathetic to each other. I think it was a great movie and a very fitting adaptation of Elmore Leonard. But yeah, Tarantino, a huge fan. So many people are fans the more you look at it. And when you look at what his work has been turned into, some of it good, some of it bad, and some of it great.
But like they always say, once you turn it over to Hollywood, you have no control. So,
well, and the thing is he never complained.
It's basically how it works.
He just said he was getting the money. He didn't care if they were bad movies. He was pretty happy when Get Shorty finally came. And there was a movie that was both well-regarded and successful based on one of his books.
Well, yes, I'm sure you'd want him to be successful, but once you sell the rights to a story, you have no say. They could chop it any which way they want. They could just use the title if they want.
Oh,
Pretty
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and he was aware of it, but it is nice when the projects turn out, and by all accounts, he was very involved with Justified and very happy with Justified.
Oh, that's nice. Well,
but
who was it?
Football. And, well,
yeah.
And there is sort of a football relationship because a lot of his characters were bookies, degenerate gamblers, and other people we'd enjoy hanging out with.
Well, I'd enjoy hanging out with bookies if we win.
Yeah. He does a phone bookie talk where I get lost on what the guy's betting on. I'll take the Niners 10 times reversed with the Cowboys, but only if the Saints 7.5 for 5. All right.
Book it. Yes, but on to football. I'll let you open with the game of your choosing that you would like to bet on this week.
Well, one thing I noticed when I was looking at the spreads here is I think Sports Interaction is pretty much like us. These numbers are minuscule, and I bet you can't bet much of a side. But first one I'm looking at is I don't mind Indy minus 2.5 at home versus Cleveland.
That was one of the ones I was looking at. Good pick. See, we got a parlay on the go already. We agreed on this one. Here we go.
When we started horse gambling, Boyd, I said I will not bet a try until I win an exacta. I will not bet a super until I win a try. We've never won a preseason bet at all.
That's okay. Here's my take on it. We're basically throwing the money away anyway on a preseason game. We might as well try and make something. Instead of making $2 that we'd make betting this game, if we took Indianapolis, for the risk, we may as well parlay it with somebody else that we really like.
One, I don't even have 4 games I like, so maybe
Well, I've got 3.
Okay. If they're the same 3, that kind of screws things, doesn't it?
Why? Then we do one parlay and one other, or we compromise
and then you know
and do
what'll
2
happen
parlays.
is we'll get
Half of the parlay.
Yeah.
And the
and the other one.
Well,
you know
that's gambling. Yeah, well, that's okay.
Okay,
we're here to have fun.
Tell me your first game. Okay, but maybe we should say why Indy. 1, they're at home. Cleveland's doing well in the preseason. I still don't buy them one bit.
No,
this is the third preseason game, which is
3 quarters out of the starters.
Yeah.
And Indy at home, they got dressed down by their owner for the way they played against Buffalo and got blown out at home in the first preseason game. So this is their second home game of the preseason. I think they blow the doors off Cleveland. I think they play the first 2.5, 3 quarters like it's a regular season game with that intensity, especially in front of the home crowd. If they're on the road, it'd be a different. I wouldn't be as confident, but I think they're going to put up a hell of an effort at home.
Yeah, I agree. Home was one of the first things I said there. I like Indy at home because that was kind of the determining factor here too. Indy fans had, a surprisingly great ride last year, but I think a lot of them are still wondering if that was a bit of a dream. And I think Indy does still have to perform in front of its home fans to really get the support they want.
Yeah, it's home. If they're playing in Cleveland, I wouldn't even look at this game, but I think they play this with the intensity. Cleveland, I looked at the roster when we did our picks or over-unders last week. They have very little talent on the offensive side of the ball. That's a known quantity. It was like Josh Gordon and Richardson. That was it. Whedon, I don't think, is an NFL quarterback.
Well, I watched about half the preseason game. He looks a lot better. But, again, it's so hard to assess because I don't know exactly. You don't have the time in their coverage to really figure out who he's playing against. And the intensity level is not the same. I mean,
no, they're just trying not to get hurt. And with
which
the amount
hasn't been working out very well.
No,
for a lot of teams.
You fantasy guys with Dustin Keller. Whew.
Well, I was going to target him as a tight end this year. I've had him year in, year out. He's been a good number 2 tight end for me on occasions. But, yeah, that hurts. Yeah, me and tight end. So this year so far, I had Hernandez. That didn't work out. Then I lost Pitta. And then Keller was going to be my guy. So, but that's all we'll speak of fantasy.
It's okay. We got Indy. And I will go with one of my games, or one of my other 3. The Giants minus 2.5 to beat the Jets, which is a home game for the Giants. The Jets are abysmal. They're starting Geno Smith at quarterback, which may work to their advantage somewhat, I guess.
It can't be any worse.
No, but Sanchez will get to play against the Scrubinis, which I just thought of now. So that could hurt us. But if they're playing 3 quarters with these guys, I would think the Giants win. Defensive talent's a lot better. Offensive talent's a lot better. Cruz probably isn't playing.
No,
but I don't
Cruz
think
won't
that
be
should
playing,
hurt.
but Nix has to show something here. It wasn't a game I spotted just because winning a preseason game matters a lot more to the Jets than winning a preseason game matters to the Giants.
Yeah, but the Giants have to do something here too. And every team treats this game the most like a real game out of the whole preseason. Nobody's playing next week. They'll get a series.
The most like it, but the good teams really don't treat it even in that thing.
Yeah, but the Giants weren't a good
And
team
with
last
the
year.
rash of injuries that's going, I think the teams that are fairly comfortable with their plan moving forward are going to break this mold. I'm not crazy about the Giants here because...
Tom Coughlin doesn't play like that, though. He's never let off the gas, ever. When he thought they would roll over for the Patriots, they didn't. I don't think they play that way. He's not that type of coach.
But
he's not Belichick.
The game is honestly vital to the Jets. Because if you're thinking, are an abysmal train wreck. I could see Rex Ryan, as you said, the coaches don't care about the players. I could see him keeping in his starters the whole game. And then jumping around if he achieves a victory at the end of it.
No. Well, if you're thinking that way, then we should bet Detroit. Because the one coach who truly gives no effort or puts any credence in the preseason is Belichick.
That's maybe not such a bad idea. But, okay, I'm not going to veto it because I don't know, but I don't like the Jets, who this matters to. This could be one of their 3 wins all year, including preseason.
Well, that's why I want to take the Giants, because the Jets are awful. Awful, awful, awful. They have no receivers playing of any consequence.
Look, Rex Ryan guaranteed it would be a top 5 defense. Why?
Yeah,
because it's me.
Yeah.
I can just see him keeping in the starters and the Giants basically.
Yeah, but I don't think it matters.
The Giants may actually be smoking weed on the sidelines before halftime.
All right. We'll agree to put that towards the end. So
yeah, it's not a veto, but I'm not liking it.
So what's your next game?
My next game is Philly giving 5.5, but still crushing Jacksonville.
Oh, it's 3.5 now.
Oh. Okay. I like 3.5 even more.
Okay, that was one of the ones I looked at. I'm not adverse to that.
Okay, a couple of reasons I like this is Philly is still installing an offense. There's a reason for them to keep their starters in. The reps actually help. You know.
Well, and they... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's just there's no chance... This is a team that I think will keep the starters in for 3 quarters because they want them to get the game speed, the tempo of that Kelly offense. You know, I think they're going to play hard for a full 3 quarters. Jacksonville is better than the Jets, but not by a whole bunch.
Well, the one thing that scares me here with that, like I thought, okay, Gabbard's hurt. He's been named the starter. But Chad Henne's as good as Gabbard.
I would argue better.
Gabbard's put
I wouldn't be shocked to see Chad Henne starting by week 4.
No, not out of the question. Gabbard's had a good preseason, though, till he hurt his thumb. He was doing actually quite well.
It's preseason, though.
I know. I'm just saying.
I personally, if I owned a team, I would much rather have Chad Henne. I wouldn't be delighted by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't see any upside in Gabbard.
No.
I don't know what they thought he could do. I see no particular talent or skill. Henne, when he was with Miami, I saw some good quarters. I saw some good decision making. I saw a decent release, you know.
But he's like all the middling quarterbacks. No consistency. Look good for a half, like he did against the Patriots.
But if they gave him the string of starts that Gabbard inexplicably got, maybe he would show a little more consistency. You know, he never.
Well, he did get a season
really
in Miami.
Did he?
Yeah. He was a starter his second year. Till he got hurt.
Didn't he get he got taken out in the Chargers game.
But then they tried him the next year.
Era of the Wildcat. And then they tried him the next year in the Wildcat again, which, you know, by that point had been completely and utterly defrauded.
Yes.
Dismantled.
Disemboweled.
Disemboweled. That's a perfect word. Defrauded was completely the wrong word. Thank you.
No, I don't mind that game. And for the parlay, I would like that game in there, if you're comfortable with it.
Well, we'll see. We're
Go
not
with,
okay. No, I like the Philly game for the reasons I said. Because
I still
think they're going to treat this as a full speed contact practice, and I don't see them stopping because there's always things Philly can work on here, and Jacksonville's pretty dreadful. Henny, you're right, is a little bit. I'd rather it were Gabbers, and that should say something right there.
Well, in the Jets game, what I said about Sanchez getting in against the second and third stringers, I'll throw that game out because that totally throws off. I hadn't even thought of that till we started talking about it.
Yeah.
With Smith starting, so you got the rookie starting, who I think is going to crash and burn in that game. But if Sanchez comes in and they're down 10, and he's playing against second and third string,
and I'm also
he should have some success, you'd think.
I'm also predicting a quick hook for a lot of Giants starters, quicker than you usually see in a game 3. All right, what's the next one you were interested in?
You'll probably laugh at this one too, but Denver -7 at home against St. Louis. I just think conditioning-wise, playing at altitude,
that's a good point.
They're going to. Denver has I think their defense will play a lot. Now with Von Miller out, they're going to have to work on some stuff with who's ever taking his spot. And I still think Manning likes to play. He likes the reps. They're working in Welker.
Manning played half a quarter in his glory years in Indy, week 3 or whatever.
Yeah, but this is an Indy. This team is an Indy.
But the offense isn't bad.
It's not.
And right now they're bringing in guys off the bus from Baltimore and other seaport towns to play O-line. I don't see Manning putting his neck on the chopping block.
I don't think St. Louis can put up any points. If Manning plays
that's entirely possible.
I think the Denver defense plays a lot. And they've added a bunch, even if the starters aren't playing, even if Champ Bailey's not playing. They added Quentin Jammer and Rogers Cromartie to the backfield on the defensive side of the ball. So they're pretty strong in the defensive backfield, and I think the defensive line plays a lot to try and get some reps with what they're going to be doing without Von Miller. Somebody's going to be trying to win a job. Whoever they're putting out there, whoever the backup is, they're trying to win a job.
Well, who's backing up Peyton?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
But
because if he gets hit even as hard as someone hits you when you're on a train platform and you're both just not looking and you bump into each other, he's sitting down. Because that O-line is a mess.
Yeah, but they're
centers are all screwed up.
They're still going to be running the ball a lot, too. I think that he plays at least a half.
I say he plays... He'll play a half if his jersey's clean. He'll play a series if he gets a grass stain.
Well, out of all the other games
and that's why
out there,
laying 7 makes me nervous there.
yeah, but it's a preseason. What the fuck are the Rams trying to prove? Osweiler.
Well, they're a Jeff Fisher coached dirty team. So they're going to be out there flying. Talk about guys trying to make a job. There are going to be so many flags in this game against St. Louis, which supports your argument. But guys are going to be out there headhunting. You saw how St. Louis played last year. They were dirty. And these kids on a team that, you know, you can look at it two ways, prides itself on hard hitting or just would like to injure the opponent. What do you think they're going to be doing fighting for a job?
I still think he plays a half. Manning doesn't sit. He doesn't like to sit. He'll play as much as he wants to play. He runs a team just like he did in Indy.
And where he didn't play in the preseason to any significant amount.
Yeah, but this team's in transition again.
Not so much on offense.
He wants reps with Welker. I've read stories about them trying to get their chemistry working. I think he plays at least a half.
I think he's blowing sunshine up Welker's ass. Never being particularly enamored of a slot receiver to begin with, but it's Wes Welker, right? You know, no one's called more balls lately. All of that. I don't think he cares. Now, to that point, too, Welker scored the only touchdown for Denver in the preseason this year.
Well, you don't think they're going to try and get something going?
Do you want to lay 7?
But that's the reason why you lay 7. You don't think they're going to want to keep that offense on the field to get it working? And the defense Denver has, playing at altitude, St. Louis, the only receiver they had is in New England. How many points are they going to put up? Do we know who the running back is? Who their receivers are? We only knew one receiver last year. Yes.
The running back's Daryl Richardson. Journeyman. Middle of the road.
Yeah.
Not terrible for all of that.
Well, still. Can you name me a receiver?
That's a lot trickier.
So how many points are they putting up? I don't think.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. So let's compromise. I wanted to just bet 2 straight up. You wanted to parlay 2 parlays. We'll do a parlay and a straight up.
Okay.
So we think the parlay is going to be Philly and Indy.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let me just suggest one more game, and then we can decide among those games for who we're just betting on a one-shot.
Okay. Well, I like the value we were getting out of Denver, too. That was the other reason I liked it. They're plus 100.
Yeah, that's
and
only
preseason.
Like, everything else I'm looking at is 91.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a 90-cent difference in payout here. And laying 7 points just makes me nervous in a preseason.
Yeah, but there's always blowouts in some preseason games. And that one
but they're usually by the teams that went 4-12 the previous year trying to establish an attitude. But
well, I think Peyton Manning wants to get that offense right because he's not going to play next week.
It's not a terrible argument. I like that more than the Jets-Giants, to be honest.
Okay.
No, but okay, the final game that I thought was at least intriguing, Cincy plus 2.5 at Dallas.
Now we're betting against our preseason bet.
No, we're betting on both sides. We got Cincy and Dallas.
Yeah. That's true.
And I like Cincy.
You've been watching Hard Knocks?
No, I haven't yet. I've downloaded them all from completely legitimate sources.
Okay. You can tell me those off air?
Yeah.
Because I've downloaded them from completely illegitimate sources.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure they already know that.
But my argument on this is I pay for HBO. The fact that this fucking program isn't on. Fuck you.
Yeah, because of our Canadian content restrictions, we don't get Hard Knocks in Canada, which blows my mind.
Again, I pay a lot of money to have HBO because I could give two shits about the movie networks. But you have to have the movie network to get HBO. Whatever. I want HBO. I love HBO. I'm a supporter of their product. They take our money every month. So, I feel no guilt downloading.
No. If I was in the U.S., I'd have HBO and watch it. Right?
I watch HBO all the time.
No, but I'm saying if I was in the U.S., I could just watch HBO. I'd be paying for the subscription. So
yeah,
I don't feel bad downloading that at all.
Yeah, I'm watching HBO Canada. Anyway,
and I miss real sports.
So this isn't even a Hard Knocks argument in any way because I haven't seen a bit of it yet. I watched. Who was that since he played? Was that Tennessee?
Atlanta? Yes. But was it on TV?
It was on the NFL Network.
Oh, okay.
Just standard def. They rerun them at all times, so it was just on in the afternoon when I was kicking around one day. Since he looks really good. And they look focused, and when their first team was in, they looked terrific on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and AJ Green didn't even play that game.
No, and it didn't seem like they needed him. Their O-line was really solid.
Well, Tennessee's this will be a test.
Is not the best. It'll be a test, but
this is their test. No, I know, but I'm saying this will be a test to show you where they're at. Because Tennessee has given up the most yards in the preseason on the heels of giving up the most yards in the league last year, or second most.
Okay,
one of those two.
I didn't realize that. That's sort of a
394 yards a game in the preseason.
Well, the Chargers given up the most points, so
I know it's just the preseason, but when your defense was that bad last year, and there's no iota of improvement, it doesn't bode well for anything heading into the season.
No, good test game. And I don't mind Dallas either at all. I mean, honestly, they just don't seem to care about the preseason either.
Yeah, would they lose to Arizona last week?
Yeah,
12-7.
So. Yeah.
So I think
don't
their
mind
defense
getting
is
some
there.
points on Cincy. And they impressed me. Watching that Tennessee game, I know Tennessee's a lot better than the Chargers, so I'm not trying to just get under your skin here.
They're not, Marlon. You can't get under my skin when I know they're going to stink again this year. They haven't improved the defense at all.
When Cincy's first team was on, they were just having their way. They weren't trying to do anything complicated. There was one turnover, but Dalton looks pretty good. I think he's kind of an underrated, solid middle-of-the-road quarterback who's coming into his own. And that team's developing around him.
Yeah, that's the two quarterbacks I wanted them to draft that year, Kaepernick or Dalton. And we got Jake fucking Locker. Brilliant. Fucking brilliant.
Oh, and CJ, by the way. Same old, same old. I'm not going to hit a hole. I'm Superman. I'm going to dance sideways and backwards and turn would probably be a admittedly underwhelming 2.5-yard gain into a 3-yard loss.
And he said in an interview in the preseason that he was just going for the hole this year.
Not from what I saw from that game. Small sample, but no.
He did in the
was
first
the same
preseason
thing
game.
I've seen for 2 years.
First preseason game he did it. And I didn't see any highlights even from the second of him. But I'll take your word for it because I've watched that same story. Yeah, he'll bust one for 40, but then he has 5 runs where he loses these negative yards. So
it's like he thinks he's not on a team. It's like he's in grade 4.
And then they keep blaming
he's the best athlete and will just turn all of this on his own legendary ability and do this. And you can see the hole. It's not a big hole. Fine. You're not going to get many yards. Fine. You're not going to lose.
No, you only need 3 yards to carry.
Stop. Anytime you see a guy with a defensive end a yard in front of him and back up behind the defensive end who stops his forward momentum and goes sideways. When does that ever... 90% of the time that didn't work out for Barry Sanders.
Yeah. No, we just remember the great ones that he had, where he'd spun around.
Well,
but
yeah, he had a higher percentage of that shit going on than anyone else. And I'm just saying, 90-95% of the time it didn't work for him. So
no, I know. I've been watching that sad story for the last couple of years, dude.
Yeah.
No, I don't mind that pick. We can do that as the single game.
Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I looked at that one too. Okay, so we got Cleveland at Indy, Indianapolis -2.5. And we have Philadelphia at Jacksonville, Philadelphia -3.5 on our parlay for $5, pays $18.22. Booked. And I just had that game here. Where did it go? And then we have Cincinnati +2.5 at Dallas. $5 bet pays $9.55. And it is booked. All right. Anything else you want to delve into? Oh, I'll just make a quick note that apparently HGH testing is going to happen at some point in the year. They're getting really close. Yeah, whatever that means.
Yeah, as you eloquently explained, it means nothing.
Oh, they might use ex-NFL players as the baseline now. That's where they're looking at.
The baseline is meaningless.
I know. Because we're
self-referencing our own podcast. It's in our archives. Go check it out. HGH testing. It's a pretty good one, actually.
It was. I've had compliments on it. So, that's always positive.
Yeah. I've got not much else to say.
No.
We'll
be back. Yeah. We'll be back next week for the last week of preseason. And I will be laying bets in Vegas over the long weekend, Labor Day weekend. Woo!
Lucky you.
That's going to be fun. But, all right, if you want to check out the podcast, just go to iTunes, search Offensive Lines, or you can visit our website, offensivelines.ca. Follow us on Twitter at Offensive Lines for any updates to the website, new posts, new podcasts, that type of thing. Check us out on Facebook.com/Offensive Lines. And if you want to contact the show, email us at offensivelines@shaw.ca. I'm Boyd.
I'm Marlon. That was Offensive Lines.
Degenerate fucking gambler.